Hi ladies, my name is Billy and I'm Abbey's uncle. I've been a news and documentary cameraman in Australia for the past 26 years and have spent a lot of time in the Middle East, Iraq, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Turkey, places that we now know as the epicentre of the world's refugee crisis. Abbey's asked me to tell you a little bit what it's like from a first-hand point of view to spend time at a refugee camp. Simply put, it is one of the saddest places on earth. During the civil war in Syria, over 13.5 million Syrians needed humanitarian assistance. More than 6 million are internally displaced within Syria, and around 5 million are refugees outside of Syria. Zaatari refugee camp in Jordan had a population of around 80,000 people back in 2013 when I visited. 80,000 displaced, broken and heavily traumatised people all crammed into a barbed wire tented city about 5 kilometres square in size, guarded on the outside by tanks and heavily armed military. Now here's something to think about. Anyone can become what is known as a refugee. I played with children at the camp. I heard them laugh. But the laughs were short-lived and they would then go back into their groups and sit and stare at nothing as they internalised the traumas they had all experienced. They all wanted to pose for photos and they all showed the sign of peace. These were kids the same age as you, but they'd seen things that you would never begin to imagine. With all the horror and trauma in their little lives, there is a glimmer of hope. I watched as proud ladies brushed away rocks and stones from the entrance of their tents, only for it to blow back with the next gush of wind. They are proud people, the Syrians, ashamed of what their lives have become through no fault of their own. We were walking in between locations to go to film a young family who'd been given refuge packages from World Vision. Consisted of food, drink, clothing to keep them warm. And as we turned around the tents to go to this other location, a man jumped out with a knife. I don't know what he was saying. It was in Arabic, but he was so angry and he was showing the stabbing motions and he clearly wanted to hurt us. You or I could become a refugee had we been born in that part of the world. These people living normal lives, they were happy, they had their houses, they had their health, they had their wealth. And then almost overnight, through a circumstance completely out of their control, it all changed. The majority of Syrians fled to neighbouring Lebanon, Jordan and Turkey. Traditionally, Middle Eastern people are warm, friendly and hospitable, and they were, so accommodating, compassionate and welcoming. But as the years rolled on and the people kept streaming over their borders, I noticed a real change in the attitude towards the refugees. Refugees who didn't make it to the relative safety of camps became beggars on the street. Petty crime increased to ridiculous levels as these displaced people tried to get money or food. They had survived the war zone but now found themselves homeless with no means of getting a job in a place that was fast losing patience. I saw children begging for money only to be swatted away like flies. The impact of so many refugees had a crippling effect on the very people who were there to help them on the beginning. Zarush refugee camp is right on the Syrian border. My first impression when we arrived was how much it reminded me of my grandfather's photos from World War II and the concentration camps. Barbed wire, tents all in rows, guns and military patrols. It's a place I'll never forget. Thousands of people thrown together in a camp where international aid agencies do what they can to provide food, shelter and a safe haven from the war still raging only a matter of 10 or 15 kilometres away. So even though the international community is pouring money into refugee camps, into housing for them, to keep them fed, to keep them warm during winter, to keep them cool during summer, all they want is to be able to go home. And until the war in Syria, for example, finishes, there is no prospect of them being able to return home. They don't want to be refugees. So be kind. Be thankful that you have a good life where you are. Be tolerant. And just think, to be a refugee would be the scariest thing in the world.